how many of you have ever had the experience of a surgical procedure where you were experienced anesthesia? By show of hands, how many of you have ever had a surgical procedure? How many of you have ever been with someone right after they had a surgical procedure and they were coming out of the anesthesia groggy and kind of not clear? Yeah, just about everybody in the room, one or both of those experiences. So I want you to put yourself into this story. Imagine that you are just coming out of a surgical procedure, and you just kind of groggily remember that you've been in excruciating pain for the last week and a half, that your shoulder's been hurting so badly. You have visited 8 doctors, and that resulted in you being scheduled for surgery. And so you kind of, that's going on in your mind, but you're still under anesthesia, right? And you start feeling for the pain in your shoulder. And you hear someone talking to you, and you try to listen, and all you can think to say is, did the surgery go okay? Am I okay? And what you hear the doctor say to you is, we didn't do the surgery. Something else happened. Imagine how that could shift everything, because you don't know what to think. And the surgeon goes on to explain to you in your groggy, still drugged state that when they started to do the surgery, the anesthesiologist noticed that you had a high blood toxin in your blood test results that indicated you had a cardiac position. And the pain in your shoulder could not be fixed or repaired because they had to find out what was going on with your heart. And from that moment on, everything shifts. Because in less than 2 days, you find out that you have blockages of over 50% in 3 arteries. And in 2 days, you'll be scheduled for triple bypass surgery. Now take a deep breath. Because you're just imagining this. So breathe. But this is a real story. It's the story of what my friend, who for this purpose I will refer to as Kay, it's Kay's story. It's her real life story. What happened to her when she unexpectedly went through a week and a half of excruciating pain, faced a surgery that had not been anticipated, and then woke up from what she thought was surgery to find out she hadn't had surgery at all, but would need very extensive surgery in just 48 hours. If you were in that situation, who would you count on? Just go within for a moment. Who would you count on if you were in a situation like that? Really. What name or names come to mind? And take a breath. Who could count on you if they were in that situation? Who would you show up for in a way that they knew without a doubt that they could count on you? Take a breath and come back right here. That's what we're talking about today. And what I really found out in the last 3 weeks was that the number one answer to that, who can I count on? I can count on God. I can count on Spirit. The other thing that I found out during the last couple of weeks is that my friend Kay could count on me. And I would not have predicted that the way things happened, that that's what would happen. But as some of you know, if you are my Facebook friends, some of you know that I have spent hour upon hour in the hospital with Kay over the last 2.5 weeks. And the first week after surgery, she was in ICU for 8 days. And I generally spent, I don't know, between 9 and 13 hours a day at the hospital in case there was something that was needed. I did that so her husband could go to work and not be worried about whether or not someone would be there if she couldn't reach the water, or if someone needed to really follow up and make sure that she, took her meds or something. And so this whole idea of you can count on me, I don't share like that's what I did for Kay out of ego or because I want you to pat me on my back. It's not it at all. What I really came to realize in that moment is that what we teach in Science of Mind and what I teach people and what I have learned was showing up in my actions and in my behavior. Next slide. So here at HeartSpace Spiritual Center, if anyone visits the website, right, they probably will click on the, who are these people? What? We have church and a bar? What kind of people are these people? And so one of the things they see under who we are is spirituality isn't a theory. It's an everyday, every moment way of being in the world. If you are a part of HeartSpace Dallas, you strive to walk your talk. And that's all I was doing. I realized that if I talk about the power and the presence of spirit and being love in the world and actually being a representation of that love, then really sometimes I have no other choice, right? But to show up in that way. And that's what was happening with me as I was providing support to Kay. That's all that was. It really wasn't about me at all. It was about walking the talk, of telling people I will be here for you, or telling people I care about you. But those are words. I can tell you that 365 days of the year. But what do my actions tell you?
Yes.
Right? And so this idea of who we are as HeartSpace Spiritual Center, that spirituality isn't a theory, it's an everyday, every moment way of being in the world, is what I challenge you to even begin to think about right now. In the last week, how have you been the lesson instead of teaching the lesson? And it's not just here at HeartSpace Spiritual Center. On the next slide, what you'll see is that in Science of Mind and Centers for Spiritual Living Worldwide, our purpose, our vision, and our mission are all about being that person in the world that others can count on, and of course, being the person we individually can count on for ourselves. Our purpose as a larger organization, 470 communities worldwide, is to awaken humanity to its spiritual magnificence. And our vision is a world that works for everyone, and a life that works for me. And our mission is to provide spiritual tools for personal and global transformation. Now, I believe that what's happening all the time is transformation. Every day, from the moment we wake up till the moment we go to sleep, we are transforming our lives. We are transforming the lives of everyone we interact with, and we are transforming, therefore, the entire world. So when you think about your actions and the way that you show up, what are you transforming the world into? Are you transforming the world into a place where there is greater good? Or are you transforming the world into a place where there's more complaining, more lack, more limitation, more problems? What are you transforming the world into? I want to be about transforming the world into a place that works for everyone, where people have an opportunity to have lives they love, opportunities to experience and express joy, beauty, harmony, peace, love, balance, prosperity, health, wholeness, all of the attributes of God, which are already within each one of us, that little seed that is within every cell of our body, just waiting to come forth. This is what I want to transform the world into, more of that, seeing it and being it. So we are called to, in our daily lives, actually represent this purpose, this mission, and this vision in everything we do. Ernest Holmes said in his final talk at Asilomar, Ernest Holmes is the founder of Science of Mind, and for many, many years there was an annual tradition called the Asilomar Retreat that was held at Asilomar State Park in Northern California off the coast of Monterey. And as you can imagine, Ernest Holmes, as the founder, would usually give the closing talk after an amazing week of speakers and music and bonding. And so in his last talk at Asilomar, the summer before he died, he shared, how do I even describe this? We refer to it as Sermon by the Sea. And there's a series of statements and challenges that he makes in this speech to inspire us to not just have a fun week at Asilomar when we're on retreat or even at a Sunday service, but then to go out and take these teachings into the world. So this next quote is about that. We see a world in which each and every person lives in alignment with his highest spiritual principle. This is what we are about in our global vision. And the next quote is actually, oh, no, it's not. Okay, go back one. I got there too soon. So, because I want you to see it. But let's talk about the global vision. Emphasizing unity with God and connection with each other. This is what the Sermon by the Sea does get to and puts it into everyday terms. But what is our global vision? It is the way that we want to be in the world. Each one of us is united with God, and because of that, because you are united with God, and you are united with God, and you are united with God, and each one of you is united with God, and I am united with God, then we're totally connected. We're not the same. We are not duplicates of one another. But because we are so united with God in a way that is inseparable, then we're connected to one another. And we are then called to a higher state of consciousness and action. So I would say, when you answer that question, who is it that you can count on? Who would you count on if you were in Kay's situation? You're connected to them because they show up in your life as a higher state of consciousness and action. And you show up for them for the same reason. Now, some of you might be thinking, no, I show up because that's my mama and I'm supposed to, or that's my spouse or partner and that's the right thing to do. And I'm not saying it's bad to do things out of obligation, but I invite you to think about your true obligation is this. Your true obligation is to show up in a higher state of consciousness and action for those who love you and those you love. And I would venture to say, at least in my frame of the world, in Tracy's world, I take that to beyond the people who I'm related to by blood or by family. And I try to take it into the world itself. So some of you know I do a lot of work related to diversity and inclusion in organizations and associations and communities all over the United States. And for me, it's a ministry. Now, I don't ever go into organizations and say, God calls you to be a better person. Unless it's a church. Sometimes I do when I work with churches. But in general, I don't, say that. But in my mind, I'm very clear that this is a ministry about helping people connect with and understand and work with or serve people who are different from them, from a place of higher consciousness and putting that action into place. So now, Marianne Williamson. I invite you to read this out loud with me if you are sitting in a place where you can see the screen. A path of love takes conscious effort. Many Americans have the unfortunate habit of waking up every morning and surrendering their lives to fear. Newspapers, radio or TV news, caffeine or nicotine get hold of our nervous systems and hook us into the anxiety-ridden miasma we call contemporary culture before we're even out of the door. Wow. Right? Guilty. If we're not conscious, we might want to live from a higher state of consciousness and awareness, but before we even get out the door, we get caught up. We get hooked into the bad news. We get hooked into the old story. We get hooked into the false belief. We get hooked into eating things that are not healthy for us, into speaking to people in a way that is not loving, into hearing what's going on in the world and thinking that's what has to go on with me. We get hooked into the craziness that we call contemporary culture. That's just how it is today. And I say, no, it does not have to be that way. I say, no, I study science of mind, and I know that there's a bigger, brighter truth. I say, no, there's absolutely no reason for me to forget to start my day with meditation. There is no reason for me to forget or to deny that journaling or some devotional reading is better for me than the news. That's up to me. I have to take responsibility for that. And so in order for me to be the kind of person who shows up where other people can count on me, the way that the lyrics in the song that Candace sang talked about, it's really up to me to decide that those people around me can count on me. So now, let's look at what Ernest Holmes had to say in Sermon by the Sea. Now that you already know what Sermon by the Sea is and who he is, one of the challenges that he said was, find me one person who can get his own littleness out of the way, and he shall reveal to me the immeasurable magnitude of the universe in which I live. Just find me one person who can remove the littleness, the pettiness, the complaining, the criticizing, the judgment of others. Finding one person who actually lives in that way, and it will reveal the magnitude of the universe, this spiritual perfection that we actually can notice, because it's right here. So Ernest Holmes says, closer than my nearest breath. It's right here. And it's right here, if I unleash it, if I welcome it, if I show it, if I share it. And let's go back to where I began, because the reality, Ernest Holmes can say a lot of things. Science of mind can teach a lot of things. But this morning, we're at HeartSpace. And another commitment that HeartSpace makes to the world is that we who are related to in some way, HeartSpace, even if it is just as a visitor on one day, now you're connected in a way that can never be changed to HeartSpace. And so, if you're a part of HeartSpace, you seek to live mindfully and love deeply, because we know that this aligns us with the loving presence that is God. So here's what I know. What I know is when my friend Kay was in the hospital, she needed somebody she could count on. Often when I'm doing treatments, spiritual mind treatments and affirmative prayer, I use the phrase that the universe right now is reconfiguring every cell, every atom, every molecule, every system in the body, every organ, every idea, every thought, every relationship, every activity. The universe is reconfiguring that right now in order to execute my intention and make it real. So I am not confused. When Kay was in the hospital and all of this began to unfold, it wasn't about me showing up. It was about the universe reconfiguring all the people in her life to make sure someone was there, and it just happened to be me. I just happened to be able to show up as the loving presence that is God, and that didn't have anything to do with me. That had everything to do with a commitment to be the face of God. To be the face of God when I show up in a room, in a company, in a place, in a store. I have the commitment to show up as the face of God. And what I want you to think about is when people are counting on you, you're the face of God. You are the face of God showing up. You and only you can decide to do that, to be that. And so just take a deep breath and go within and listen to these lyrics. You are the face of God. I hold you in my arms. You are a part of me. You are the face of God. You are the face of God. I hold you in my arms. You are a part of me. You are the face of God. You are the face of God. You are the face of God. When you want to know who you can count on, you know you can count on God. You can never be abandoned. You can never be separated from the divine. And so I invite you to just look around the room and notice all the faces of God that are right here, right now, in your presence. And as Candace and One continue to sing, look at them and say with your eyes, you are the face of God.
I hold you in my arms. You are a part of me. You are the face of God.
You are the face of God. You are the face of God. You are the face of God. I commit this week to be the face of God. I invite you to go within with me in prayer at this very moment. It is the face of God that is always showing up, that is always present everywhere that I go, everywhere that each one of us goes. For there is no separation between God, that perfect example of joy and peace and love, prosperity, wholeness, balance, harmony, peace. That is the truth of me. It is the truth of everyone present. We are the face of God. We are the breath of God. We are the life of God expressing. And so in this very moment, I just set the intention that we each this week go forward being the face of God and seeing the face of God in the presence of every person we meet. Yes, the face of God is everywhere present. And so in this week, in this moment, and for all eternity, let us choose to be the ones that can be counted on. Please repeat after me. I count on God.
I count on God.
And I am the face of God expressing.
I am the face of God expressing.
Just take that in. Breathe.